Purple Daily is daily Vikings entertainment. We just want the Vikings to win a Super Bowl before we die.
I will ride with this group.
Seriously, man. Please.
And away we go.
Happy Thor's Day to all who celebrate. So our guy Thor, his schedule's a little tight this morning. He may join. We do have some Ask Thor Anything questions ready to rock and roll. Timing-wise, we're hoping he can join us for at least a part of the episode. If not, there will be plenty more Thor's Days in the future. But good news for you guys.
Oh.
So much Vikings news. There's so much Vikings news. Even in the dead of the offseason, we've got more Vikings news for you here on Purple Daily, presented in part by MSP Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning. Judley?
Folks that you can absolutely 100% trust. How does Sports Dad know? Because Sports Dad has used them for projects in his home. That's right. A guy that rarely allows people into his home has welcomed MSP in, and they have done great work. And now, you know what it is? AC time. It's going to get hot again in the coming days. Book a $49 AC tune-up and get a BOGO air quality bundle, a pristine electronic air cleaner, and a UV light for the price of one. Also, MSP partnering with the Open Door, a hunger relief organization providing food to more than 20,000 people a month. MSP will be collecting brown paper bags during their HVAC and plumbing calls. Make sure that your AC is working. And it's working at 100%. How do you do that? Give them a call, 651-615-4292, or check out their website, callmsp.com. Call at msp.com, people that you can trust.
That's right.
Anybody got any Vikings news?
Yeah, you know, this first thing is more of an anniversary than it is hard news. But I'm not sure if you guys had it marked on your calendar. It is the 20th anniversary of Wilf ownership of the Minnesota Vikings. That's right. This summer, we are celebrating the 20th Wilf-versary of the Minnesota Vikings.
That's right.
And Kevin Seifert, your former good time colleague at the Star Tribune. You guys were a tandem on the beat back in the day.
The dean of the beat right now.
And he's pumping stuff off for ESPN.com. And speaking of MSP Plumbing, Heating, and Air and HVAC systems, he has a great anecdote
I was here for this.
to lead his story here. And then I want to get into a discussion about like Wilf ownership in 20 years and looking forward. But so the Wilf family closed its deal to buy the Vikings 20 years ago this summer. It was actually June 13th of 2005 is when brothers Ziggy and Mark Wilf, along with their cousin Leonard, Lenny, the forgotten Wilf, Lenny,
USOB.
You sailor. They entered the team's, at the time, dilapidated practice facility. So they had, the old Winter Park was like from the early 80s. They had I'm sure people still drive by, the replica Vikings ship is still there, on the corner of 169 or whatever. And so a replica Viking ship sat in the parking lot, its wood rotting and its sails faded. The building's air conditioning unit was so inadequate that a portable supplemental system sat in the loaded dock, pumping cool air through a hose into the locker room via a hole that had been cut through the door. This was the Vikings practice facility 20 years ago.
Yes.
After spending $600 million to buy the team and the facility, the Wilfs made their first big decision. They would rebuild the Viking ship and replace the building's HVAC unit. Quote from Mark Wilf, "We wanted to make a statement that we would be about making things top of the line and first class. It was sort of a step toward that to say, okay, we're here, we're willing to invest." The project cost about $100,000, which was sort of chump change for them at the time, and the financial equivalent of installing the new carpet after buying a house, essentially. The intent, however, would come to define the Vikings ownership group for the next 20 years. I love that story. They came in and said, what is this? What is happening? Let's throw some money at it. Let's symbolically fix the ship that represents the practice facility. Yes. And let's give an NFL franchise some air conditioning in the building that they work in every day, huh?
I kid you not, that room. So when we got back from training camp in 05, which was my first year on the beat after spending 2 years on the Packers beat, and understand this, the Packers were, and I'm sure still are, first class. Now the Vikings are now too, right? But I mean, they had the redone Lambeau Field, a locker room that was at the time enormous. The practice fields were gorgeous, and the Vikings are practicing and basically working in what was unfortunately just a pile of crap. And so the locker room, we get back from training camp and there is no AC working in the locker room. So they hire out a company to come in and basically have these huge tubes that are running into the room that aren't like hidden at all. They also had for years, the locker room in Winter Park was as small as it possibly gets. They finally knocked out a back equipment room. Yeah, the ship was an embarrassment. The building was terrible. It was so bad, though, that even with the Wilfs spending some, okay, at one point in time, Adrian Peterson either was given, awarded, I'd forget, some type of whirlpool contraption. And one day I'm walking by where the media room, because it used to be right outside the locker room. It was very, very small. It's being like redone, all this work. And I said, what's going on here? Adrian had donated his whirlpool contraption to the team so players could use it.
Oh, man.
Like, you think about this. If you guys, Phil, I don't know if you got to practices out there, but if you recall, before the Wilfs, it was the backfields, like the hill up to, so not a part of the field, but a hill up to the actual building was overgrown with weeds and shrubs. They didn't take care of it one bit. I mean, it was an absolute joke. And the Wilfs came in and like hired George Toma, you know, the Super Bowl grounds crew guy, one of the most famous, the Twins spring training guy.
So he's in order most famous for Twins spring training facility, and then number 2 Super Bowl groundskeeper for 50 years.
Yes, and a legendary name. They hired him to literally come in and fix the practice fields because they were so bad. One time during a practice before my time, but I was told about this, Ken Irvin, the defensive back for the Vikings, broke up a pass and went flying into the nearby woods and actually like tripped on a tree stump.
It's like a poison ivy.
Yeah. So, I mean, this is what they walked into. Red McCombs spent no money at all. And I think the Wilfs, and I mean, you'll get to it. That first year was an absolute gong show. But the Wilfs, I think, thought that they were buying a National Football League team. But what they were buying was this team that had been run like the cheapest of the cheap.
Yeah. And the fact, so Red McCombs came in 98 was the first, what year did he buy the team?
98.
It was 98. So it was like 98 through 04.
Year.
Yeah. And they went, it's kind of crazy how successful they actually were with penny pinching Red McCombs, right? Just stripping everything down to the studs. They weren't paying assistants. They weren't spending as much as they could on contracts and defensive players. The facilities were garbage, and yet they had the greatest offensive season in the history of the NFL in 1998. Went back to the NFC Championship game in 2000. Had a couple seasons where they started like 5-0 or 6-0, whatever it was. And so on the field, it wasn't as much of a train wreck. But yeah, and by the way, I don't want to like give the whole story away because it's awesome. It's a long read, but it's ESPN.com. There's a Vikings section, and Kevin goes through the history of what the team was like 20 years ago, and just some of the things throughout the years. And we can sprinkle some more of these anecdotes in, but I want to broaden this out and ask you first, you guys, how would you, if you were explaining the Wilf ownership group, 20 years of Wilf ownership, to like a fan from another franchise, it's like, hey, what's the deal with these guys? So they've owned the team for 20 years. How would you describe 20 years of Wilf ownership?
I think they've taken the franchise, and the Vikings are weird because they've never been bad for a prolonged period. But I think they've taken there's no question with the stadium, with the practice facility in Egan now, they've taken a franchise that was really, really run on the cheap for a long time and classed it up a lot. They've had a lot of success. They've made their mistakes. All people do. But the one thing in Seifert's story that I think is the heart of the story, and it's the most interesting, is when you get to the playoffs, it's like that's where 20 years in, you've been to a couple of conference championship games, but the reality is you've not gotten back to a Super Bowl. You've not gotten over the hump. And it's not like you've been to 5 conference championship games. You've been to 2 in 20 years. So they've done a lot of good, but I think they would tell you flat out the one thing is the goal is to win a Super Bowl, and they have unfortunately not even gotten to that game.
Yeah, I think they're easily the best owners in town, and they pump a lot of money and success into this organization. They care. They use the words championships when discussing things. This is not about having a nice little team and we maybe want to do this and make this exciting. I always appreciate, even though the Vikings haven't been able to do it or even get there in 50 years, 40 years, that they at least care about championships. They want a championship organization. And for other teams in this town that definitely don't ever publicly say those things, and I know some people might want to mock it at times, I think it's important for ownership to acknowledge the fact that they care and they want championships. That's huge. It's absolutely huge.
Yeah. I would say, well, I guess a caveat here would be that NFL teams make bank off of the national TV contracts, off of premium seating, these ridiculous stadiums now, and the salary cap makes it essentially impossible for NFL teams to lose money unless you are just bumbling around, right? So I will put that caveat over this, but they will spare no expense outside of that very friendly structure where you get to make a lot of money as an NFL owner, whether it's the HVAC system back in 2005 or even I saw Aaron Jones, I don't know if it was on a podcast or some interview, and he was talking about, because the Wilfs and the organization are always ranked in the top 3 on the NFL Players Association annual survey of like the best organizations. And taking care of family is something that's always like an A or an A plus. And Aaron Jones explained, all right, coming over from a new team, you're trying to figure out friends and family traveling to games and the logistics of like their travel and their hotel and the tickets and who's going to take them to their seats and all this stuff. And he said the Vikings, and there's some other organizations that do this too, but they just have a department that handles that for families. Okay, come on in here. We will help you get a hotel. Like if you're moving, we'll help you find a place to live, house, apartments, condo, whatever it is. If your family wants to go to games, you essentially just tell us how many people, give us a head count. We'll take care of the travel. Now the player pays for it, but it's you tell us all the details or like the high level of who's coming and whatnot, and then we'll just take it out of your game check. You don't have to worry about anything. Stuff like that. And I lied. I want to read one more anecdote from this Kevin Seifert story because I think it illustrates just how caring for a group of billionaires, right, that can largely be cold-hearted, or just have a distance from regular common fans. I think the Wilfs do a good job of just being human. And here's one example. So the organization fired Rick Spielman, right, 2 years ago, or whatever it was, 3-4 years ago. And if you remember, back in June of 2023, a year and a half after he was fired, Spielman lost most of his personal NFL Vikings memorabilia when Hurricane Ian destroyed his home in Florida. Just lost all sorts of personal belongings. So the Wilfs and the Vikings sent him a replacement set of all the game balls he had received over the years. It's like these boxes of, I'm trying to read some of the writing on these, but like 2008, 2009 back-to-back NFC North Division champions. Rick Spielman, the general manager, got a game ball for that. Gone. They literally like recreated the brown football with like the white strip and the cursive writing and stuff. And they sent him that. And Rick goes on social media and sends out a thank you. It's like they fired that dude and yet still have, hey, that was business, but we worked with him for a decade and a half. Just stuff like that. Like they are much more, I think, human as owners than a lot of other. And I also think that they're able to remove ego. They don't they're front and center enough, but also in the background. They don't meddle. It's not like Jerry Jones, where every week he's going to hold a post-game press conference outside the locker room and do his weekly radio hit where he's throwing players under the bus. It's like you don't hear Ziggy and Mark Wilf on the radio the next morning talking about what the coach could have done better the day before.
I'd say the only time, so I would say a misstep recently was probably, it feels like they sort of lost track of what was going on when Spielman and Zim quit talking and stuff.
Yep.
But then they worked hard to remedy that. no matter how you feel about the cash flux that they get from the league itself, there's no question they want to win badly. Like they never do anything that's like, and we've talked about this with the poll ads, questionable. They want to win. They try to do the right thing as far as trying to win, which I'm sure it's incredibly frustrating to them. They don't have a Super Bowl or a Super Bowl appearance. It also is interesting. I would say one of the biggest changes in the 20 years is this, when they originally took over in 2005, Ziggy was the point man. Like he was the press conference guy. He wasn't great at it, but he did all of that. And in the last 10 years or so, it's really transitioned to all Mark.
Like, it's like kind of since the Adrian Peterson stuff,
yep.
I feel like.
So it's really transitioned there. So that has definitely been, and Ziggy, if I'm not mistaken, in Seifert's piece is now 75. Marcus in his, I think, 60s. So we can bicker and debate about, well, yeah, they get a ton of cash from the league through TV and things. That's true. But I've never questioned their desire to win. Like there's never been a time where I've said they don't want to win. They are doing things to actively, as you said about the Twins 2 days ago, Phil, they're never actively trying to like punk us. Like,
and
what are you doing? You're embarrassing your team.
And to that point about the Twins comparison, two things. One, and one of you brought this up earlier here in this little segment, they're not afraid to literally use the word championship when talking about their goals. Mm-hmm. They're not afraid to say, we want to win a Super Bowl. We want to win a championship. That is what our goal is. And we can sit here and debate whether they're making the right decisions to get there, whatnot, but it's out there. And by the way, every year for 20 years that they don't, it's a failure technically, but they're not afraid of, well, if we put out championship and come up short, then people are going to think we're failures, right? So no, they're stating their goal. And man, I don't know when maybe I'm wrong on this, but I feel like the Polad family has been very much, I'm sure they'd like to win a championship, but in terms of saying out loud regularly, we have championship standards, and then holding the organization accountable through that prism.
That's the thing. Yep.
And it's like Mike Zimmer won a lot of games for this football program. But guess what, dude? You're fired because it's going the wrong direction now. And you had a falling out. Rick Spielman. Hey, Rick, I know you think we're coming in here today. You've been here for a long time, and we're going to fire Mike Zimmer together and pick the next head coach. Sorry. We don't think you're good enough either because we want to win a championship. And It can be kind of cutthroat sometimes if that's your goal. Are these people that maybe I've loved and worked with for a long time good enough at their jobs to fulfill championship as a goal and as a franchise? Like, you are stewards. Like, the fans are funding this, right? They're spending thousands of dollars a year. Yep. So they haven't won one yet. So I don't want to pump their tires too much, but it feels like they are aggressively trying to make that happen, and all of their actions are in line with the stated goal of winning a championship.
Agree completely. Yep, they have done right by the state too. Like they could have come in and basically threatened immediately. They tried not to, and they got the stadium, they got the practice facility, which is great. But, they got those things. And yes, there were some veiled threats. I'm not saying that there weren't, but we never got down to, oh my God, they might actually move. And for a couple guys that came in from Jersey, like that was, I think, the immediate thought at the time. It's like Red couldn't get the stadium. He's going to bail. And you're going to get two guys from New Jersey that are going to come in and basically threaten us. And that does not go over well here. So I think they've done very right, to use your term, as stewards of the franchise. They've done right by the franchise.
I think it was my dad's PTSD of watching his North Stars leave, but I remember right around that time of like early 2000s, and that was, 2000 was my first conscious memory of the Vikings season, and then the Vikings played that preseason game in San Antonio in like 2003 or 4, I forget exactly the year it was. My dad was convinced Red McCombs was moving the team. I remember my dad being there, we're going to lose another team. He was absolutely convinced that was going to happen. And then when the Wilfs came in, that was kind of around the time he kind of got sick. But I just remember vividly he was convinced the Minnesota was about to lose its second franchise in 10 years, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they never directly played that card in the contentious negotiations with lawmakers for US Bank Stadium. but there was like some Mike Florio got some steam from the league that like Los Angeles could be lurking over here, but it was they never like fully went there. Because I
Yes.
think if you go there, then you kind of ruin the relationship with the fan base.
And there's always going to be people that hate this, and we'll get this with the Wolves now as well. But if you do not help build a stadium, you are not going to keep your team long term, right? Like the Metrodome was a piece of crap. I know, folks. You loved it. The Twins won 2 World Series. People have very fond memories made in the stadium, but the reality is you could not survive there. So, and if you think
I kind of miss it sometimes. I'm not gonna lie. Those
hot
choppers
dogs.
up over the middle. Yeah,
I miss the hot dogs and exiting it. Those are my two favorite. Yes,
do you guys
That's great.
do you guys in all seriousness ever miss baseball in that place?
I miss the strategic advantage that they had that they don't have at Target Field, which is like you had a bunch of hard ground ball hitting choppers. Like you knew how to play the game in the Metrodome, and I do think it led to the Twins having a strategic advantage. Vikings, the noise, but the noise is crazy in US Bank Stadium too. So
And I think it's more legitimate there because the Metrodome, there's no question, piping and noise. They would take those massive speakers and turn them towards the visitors' bench.
It's hilarious. Just
and then
trying to have
blare
a meeting.
them. And then that's incredible.
One more thing on the Wilfs here, more of a philosophical question. And this would be a criticism of them too, of the franchise, because the last time the Vikings made back-to-back playoff appearances was the game ball that I just referenced in the Seifert article. It was 08-09.
Yeah.
They have not been to the playoffs. Forget about Super Bowl for a second. In terms of just sustainably high-level competitive teams, sometimes you got to have like 5 cracks at it before you look at the Buffalo Bills right now, for God's sakes. Like you got to pound that rock, not just in the regular season, but you got to string together 11 wins, 14, 12, 13, 11, and knock on that door a few times. And they've been unable to do that. 2008, 2009 was the last time. The last time the Vikings made 3 straight trips to the playoffs was a quarter century ago, 98, 99, 2000 season.
Uh-huh.
So, I mean, right now, and by the way, the betting market would tell you, just based on kind of the 8.5 win total, I don't know exactly what it is today, but it's been around like 8.5, that they're not necessarily a playoff team. We think that that's wrong. But there's a group of NFL teams right now that just always makes the playoffs. The Chiefs are not only always making the playoffs, they're always getting to the AFC Championship game and beyond.
You just hit on the key thing, and they don't draft the quarterbacks, but there has been no franchise QB that they have developed in their time here that the team has. So like Favre was fun, but Favre
was on the way out when they took over.
Didn't, and he did not come in with them there. He was drafted in 99. But like that, to me, that is like, if you're looking for, it's simple, but what's the common denominator of the why? And if you hit on McCarthy, I guarantee you are going to make multiple playoff appearances in consecutive seasons.
Well, to your point, like the teams that currently always make the playoffs in this iteration of the NFL, the last like 7-8 years, the Chiefs. All right. And that roster has changed a lot in the last 6 or 7 years, but Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes, and then a couple other really key pieces like Chris Jones and Travis Kelce.
And the defense has gone up and down, but they make the playoffs.
Yep. And you got a great coordinator that can kind of take different versions of the defense. And the Baltimore Ravens have made the playoffs 6 of 7 years. Well, John Harbaugh, Lamar Jackson, stability, and the other pieces can kind of change in and out, but you've got those pillars. Buffalo Bills, 6 straight playoff appearances. Okay. Sean McDermott, Josh Allen. Let's remake the offense. Let's bring in a new coordinator. Let's say goodbye to Stephon Diggs. Let's do this, that. But that's your core and your pillar. The Eagles have made the playoffs 7 of the last 8 years with like 2 different iterations of that team, right? They moved on from Carson Wentz and Nick Foles and then Doug Peterson.
Yeah.
And then immediately just right into the new era with Nick Sirianni and Jalen Hurts and an offensive line. There's probably a couple, the Rams I'd put on this list. They've made the playoffs 6 of 8 years. McVay and then Goff and Stafford have been the 2 bookend quarterbacks. But the philosophical question is, are the Vikings going to remain just this pop-up franchise? Every other year we'll make the playoffs, and every 8 to 10 years an NFC championship game. Or are they on the verge? Have they built something sustainably competitive here? That's the question.
And I think the answer is the latter. I think they've built something. Now this all depends on one thing, McCarthy, because the coach is in place, but the coach has also proven that he can develop QBs. So I'm not going to say that I'm concerned about the McCarthy project or tenure not working until it literally doesn't work, because I have confidence that O'Connell can win with McCarthy. I have confidence that McCarthy is wired correctly to be that guy. And the problem, so just to backtrack a little bit too, because before Kirk, Zimmer was very good. Like, he did a lot of good things. And I think we've discussed this before. But the problem was his forte was defense. And that's volatile because that's an entire unit and guys age out quickly. And so, like, you can't say, okay, 2017, our defense is great, and we're going to do the exact same thing in 18. At quarterback, at least, especially with guys in the sweet spot age-wise, barring injury, you can pretty much predict that they're going to continue on the same plane, right? Mm-hmm. So, like, this to me, like, if you were to ask me the most simple question, which is why haven't the Vikings had more playoff success since 2005? It's very simple. Quarterbacks.
Yeah. And so, yeah, you're right. It's like the pattern of their playoff inconsistencies over 20 years has mirrored the pattern of quarterback inconsistency and choppiness. And so if you can have KOC and JJ McCarthy, and then you kind of figure out the rest of the moving parts, you're probably going to make the playoffs 6 out of 8 years, whatever, 5 out of 7 years, and then you're going to have multiple cracks at it. Mm-hmm. Couple more items here, Vikings news related. So much Vikings news. Always, even during the offseason. That's right. But let's first step foot on the golf course here, Dex. It's golfing season. Meadows at Mystic.
It is. Yeah, it's been a hot and steamy one. It's been some great weather now coming up. So golfthemeadows.com. That is the place to book the tee time. Go check out the tee sheet. It's one of the best courses around, just south of the metro. Heck, maybe you're planning your trips up to US Bank Stadium, or honestly to training camp here in a month, and you also want to get on the golf course. You should go to Meadows at Mystic Lake, golfthemeadows.com. Plus, they have a great patio that's just opened, too. So a beautiful spacious patio. I've had many happy hours after there as well. Go to golfthemeadows.com to book that next tee time.
And after you get done shooting whatever it is that you shoot, if it's me and Dex, hopefully 98, 99, something double digits, you can have a little post-round meal at Butcher and the Boar, Judd.
Or just drinks, because I'm going to tell you right now, the Butcher and the Boar. Well, I mean, if you don't golf well...
Give me one of those old fashions at Butcher and the Boar. Oh, let's go.
Butcher and the Boar North Loop, brand new, massive patio. Ladies and gentlemen, it's summer here. It goes by quick, but you know what? There also are glorious days in store, and there would be no better place to spend them than on that patio, North Loop, Butcher and the Boar. And as Phil said, we're also talking, if you're hungry, Southern-style hospitality, house-smoked meats, hand-cut steaks, fresh seafood, a cocktail list that's fantastic. If you're going to a Twins game, Butcher and the Boar, great pregame stop. Get out there, enjoy the patio, enjoy summer in the North Loop.
Yeah. And hey, 4th of July, just around the corner, too. Fireworks Forever might be a fun little place to stop by here in the next few days, Dex.
That's right. More boom for less bucks. It's family owned and locally operated. It's in Wisconsin, 2 locations in Somerset and St. Croix Falls. Friendly and knowledgeable staff. There's actual pyrotechnics on staff to help you answer any questions that you have. And heck, maybe you're looking through all those aisles and you see these QR codes and you're like, well, what does this firework even do? You scan the QR code and it'll pull up a thing on your phone.
I can see Dex right now. It's like wrestler entrance theme.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. This is the game's firework display, or Cody Rhodes' firework display. I would buy those fireworks, and you know what? I would make the stop at Fireworks Forever. That's where I'd go. Fireworksforever.com too for coupon and pricing information. More boom for less bucks at Fireworks Forever.
I love Vikings news.
Yeah, so do we, Judd. So do we. So this is interesting. Shaq Griffin just signed a 1-year contract back with the Seattle Seahawks.
Yep.
Where I believe he started his career, right? Didn't he get scooped up in the draft by the Seahawks? So it's a 1 year, $3 million contract that can be worth up to $4 million. So the Seahawks bring in some depth there. And yeah, I mean, Shaq Griffin last year for the Vikings played in all 18 games. He was a rotational cornerback for them. He played 600 snaps, which is about 55% of the overall snaps. It was just a good, solid, professional, according to PFF, like a slightly above average cornerback. Just like a good. And so I was kind of thinking they got cap space. Would it make sense to bring him back for some depth? He's like a few years younger than Stephon Gilmore was. So I don't know if it was the Vikings not really wanting him back because, hey, we got a bunch of dudes that we like in that room, or if it was him reading the tea leaves and saying, yeah, I don't know if I see a path to playing time if you like Isaiah Rodgers that much. But
right.
Apparently it wasn't a fit to bring Shaq Griffin back for depth in the cornerback room.
It feels like the Vikings have a plan, at least in training camp, very much to give Mekhi Blackman and Dwight McGlothern chances, right?
Okay.
So I think they're trying to, in an ideal world, I think they like their depth, but if nothing else, it feels like they're going to do what they did last summer, which is take a look at guys. If a guy gets hurt, if a guy does not develop, go out and sign a guy on his couch. But I can't blame him. Look, McGlothern made the team as an undrafted free agent last year. They liked him a lot. He didn't play a lot. So it makes some sense. But yes, Shaq was good. And as far as I could tell, good in the room too. Good in the room. I think he was a very helpful veteran piece. And that locker room is really good. Like that's one thing that it's very clear O'Connell puts a priority on. I don't think there's a lot of bitching and moaning and backbiting and BS stuff there. And the veterans, guys like Gilmore and Griffin, I thought were really nice additions to that culture, shall we say.
Yeah. What you mentioned McGlothern. Let's talk to him, talk about him for a second. So he was undrafted out of Arkansas, but one of the premier undrafted free agents a couple years ago.
Yes.
He wound up playing in 4 games on the defensive side, just 20 snaps. They threw him out there a couple times. But what has Judd's camp notes observed over the last couple years? Dwight McGlothern, is he? If you had to throw him out there for like 300 or 400 snaps, is that something that you think this could be trending to?
I think we'll know more after training camp because It's been one training camp, a few preseason games. The OTAs are hard to tell, like the OTAs and the June camp. But I think they're going to make that determination pretty quickly. But that is one, to circle back to the lead topic too. That is one place where the Wilfs do spend, and you have to spend, UDFA market. Mm-hmm. So like there are some teams that are just tap out of that thing and don't spend. So if we're talking about individual areas where the Wilfs actually back up their football operations department with cash, if you look at what the Vikings annually spend now on undrafted free agents, I think every year it's near the top. And that's the biggest thing that you have going for you post-draft, especially this year when you had a bunch of guys not get drafted because the class was so deep because of the COVID years.
Well, and hell, I mean, this franchise, even long before the Wilfs took over, there's like a legacy of some of the great undrafted free agents in modern NFL history are Vikings guys. John Randall, Adam Thielen, and more recently, Ivan Pace has been a really high-end quality linebacker.
Yep. And
they had to pay him was it $350,000 or something guaranteed to bring him in as a premier UDFA?
I feel like in Randall's days, though, they didn't get paid. Like he just signed here and hoped.
Yeah.
But yeah, Pace got paid. They go out and actively spend. Mm-hmm. And that is an ownership approved, not a salary cap. Like that's one thing where they are actively not being cheap and in fact spending a lot.
Yeah. I do have one more thing for you guys here.
Latest Vikings news.
I know we promised a few weeks ago that there'd be no more Aaron Rodgers updates, but we have one final Aaron Rodgers Vikings update here. Okay. So this is from the Rothman and Ice show on 97.1 The Fan in Columbus, Ohio. Rothman and Ice talked to Adam Schefter, old Shefty doing the interview rounds. And the line of questioning was, did it ever get real from Minnesota's side of things to where it's a Columbus, Ohio. I'm guessing they cover the Steelers in the region. Is that how that? I don't know. Why are they talking about this in Columbus, Ohio?
Just because
Browns?
it's probably
Trying to think
topical.
about this.
Yeah.
Browns, Steelers. I don't know.
Steelers are
It's probably topical.
Okay.
It doesn't
Did
make
it
a lot of
ever
sense.
get real from Minnesota's side of things to where they said, we want to offer Aaron Rodgers a contract? Did it ever get that close? Or is there just a lot of belief in that building that J.J. McCarthy is their guy? And Schefter said it never got that close. There's a lot of belief in that building with J.J. McCarthy. So there it is. That's the final word from Shefty on the matter is that
Not
it
what the
never
Athletic told me.
got close.
Diana Rossini didn't tell me that.
News.
I think there's no question. I mean, O'Connell's talked about this. They definitely considered it.
I love the semantics of all of this.
Well-
It's like, okay, we know that they talked to him. We know that they had internal meetings. We know that they considered it to some extent behind the scenes, but not enough for it to get close to offering him a contract.
So just a little inside baseball here because it's very apparent. So it's clear Schefter doesn't like Rodgers because Rodgers does not like Schefter. So Schefter is kept on the outside, right?
But Rossini got scorched earth by Rodgers in that same when Rodgers was ranting about the media. Didn't he rip Schefter and Rossini both by name?
Yeah, yes, but the difference with the Athletic is I think because they're Cal guys, Rodgers and Michael Silver.
Right.
Yeah, they're tight.
Okay.
I think he was the pipeline because
Got
he
it.
got very involved and bylines and stuff. But I mean, Schefter, to his credit, cannot stand Aaron at all. Like he like turns like red when he has to talk about him. He can't stand him. So
Well, he's insufferable.
well, now it might be his last year. I mean, no, there's no question he's insufferable.
Do you-
I am delighted it didn't happen.
Do you believe that Aaron Rodgers, because it's the irony of him going on Pat McAfee every single week for like the last 5 years for a couple $1 million a year, whatever it is, going on this week and saying, this is my last year. I just want to play football in peace and harmony and kumbaya. And once I'm done, you're never going to hear from me again. I love that he has to go on this massive platform to tell everyone in advance that someday you're not going to hear from me.
Because he wants
so you guys
the
know.
public to say, no,
No,
Aaron,
no,
don't
please,
go
come
away.
back. Yeah.
Please don't leave us. We need
What would
more.
we do without your guidance?
I just don't. I felt this way at the time, and it just solidified every time I see him. It would have been a circus here.
And you know what? It would have been, we would have, obviously, this is Purple Daily, so you swallow hard. And Brett Favre was different, though, because I think Brett Favre was despicable in a lot of ways as a human, but it hadn't quite gotten to that level yet as much in 2009. It started to, then the Sturger stuff came out, like going into 2010.
Brett Favre was, to be very clear, and there have been things that have transpired since his career came to an end that make him despicable, but Brett Favre was fun to cover.
It was much more of a beloved figure up to a certain point.
Yes.
In 2010, it kind of started to turn, and then,
But, Brett was a manipulator who used the Southern aw shucks to his advantage. Aaron wants to tell you how smart he is.
he's more
all
of a
the
smarmy
time.
manipulator.
Yes. I got no, as far as people to cover, Brett was fun. Aaron seems like a royal pain in the ass.
Yeah. There is an alternate universe that would have been fun to see play out if you could just go back then after it train wrecks and then start the J.J. McCarthy thing over. But that's it. No more Aaron Rodgers.
Anybody got any Vikings news?
No more Vikings news.
No!
No more Aaron Rodgers updates.
No.
That's it.
No more
That's a
Vikings
wrap.
news?
Not till next week.
Oh,
I promise there'll be more next week. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
But this is Purple Daily, and thank you guys, those of you who have clicked that subscribe button and like button. If you haven't, please help us keep growing this incredible community of Vikings fans. Love you guys. We are less than a month away from training camp, from more Judd's Camp Notes, and we've got plenty more fun off-season episodes in store here. Don't scuff the new notebooks. Keep those things safe. For the sports dad, for his multicolored pen, for Dex, I'm Phil. We just want the Vikings to win a Super Bowl before we die.